I find this all fascinating to see how this is going to come out. You have Kristen Sinema in Arizona, very different. She even has different, Manchin and Sinema even differ. But they only have a couple of weeks to fight this out. And you got another debt limit. And you got a kill switch for cars. Let me point this out to you. This is a great catch. Daily Caller had this piece. In this legislation, and you can actually go and look at it. They tell you where to find it. There's what they call a safety measure that's going to take effect within 5 years, right? Marketed to Congress as a benign tool to help prevent drunk driving, writes former Congressman Bob Barr. The measure actually mandates that automobile manufacturers build into every car what amounts to a vehicle kill switch. It is a standard. It's become standard for this legislative mandate from Congress. There's not a lot of details. Don't really exactly know what the safety device is. They say it has to, quote, passively monitor the performance of a driver of a motor vehicle to accurately identify whether or not that driver may be impaired. The fact that, first off, mandatory measure. Secondly, what does passively mean? To use the word passively, that tells me that this is always going to be monitoring. The other thing is that if it's always monitoring, this thing has to be connected to any kind of operational whatever in the vehicle, any kind of control in the vehicle, so that the vehicle can be disabled, before or even during, whenever, I guess, it detects that someone is not sober. Now, it's also apparently described as an open tool, an open system. That word's used. So that means if it's open, who can access this data and get in there at any time? That sounds somewhat disastrous, correct? This, to me, I think this is a major privacy concern, correct? The fact that anyone would be able to take from you any amount of control, that's a major safety issue. And the fact that you have any aspect of this that is open at all, that also prevents a major safety issue. I mean, Daily Caller has this great line in this. They wrote a piece about it. And they're talking about the system adjudicating whether or not someone is sober or, whatever. And they say that, well, what if a driver isn't drunk? What if a driver is just tired? And the car forces itself to the side of the road before the driver can find a safe place to pull over and actually rest. And apparently there's nothing in this. There's no mechanism that you can use to challenge the disabling feature. So you're looking at being forced into a potentially dangerous situation, something completely beyond your control. Now, there are other legal issues that other writers have brought up that as it relates to the Fifth Amendment, because with the self-incrimination and the Sixth Amendment right to face someone's accuser, et cetera, et cetera. This is where there's a lot of constitutional issues with this. And by the way, what does impaired driving even mean? Is there a legal standard for impairment when driving? And is that only specifically, what if it's alcohol? What if you have a medical issue and you're driving yourself to the hospital? I mean, that actually does happen. Look, I'm going to tell you, where I got some kin that live in southern Missouri, if you call the ambulance, guess what? How long that EMT is going to take to get to you? Average time down there is, on a good day, 20 minutes. You got to think about this. Apparently, because we did not have an open and thorough legislative process, none of these questions were asked. This is a huge issue. This is just one of the issues that's tucked away in this legislation. Do you recall? I'll ask you all. Do you recall anybody having an open legislative discussion about this? I don't. And by the way, this is where I would put my tinfoil hat on if it wasn't the star on top of my tree where it is perfect, actually. I don't like the government having a kill switch for my vehicle. That's not the government's job. It's not. This is scary.